Hi everybody, Emilie CHAMEL here for Pink Fresh Studio, and today I'm so excited to share with you a layout I created with the Happy Heart collection. And I had a lot of fun creating a monochromatic layout. I used mostly the bluish greenish papers, and I backed it up and covered it with paired it, should I say, more with some ink as well that fit perfectly with the colours of the papers. I'll list all the material I've used below in the comment section, so please don't hesitate to look at all the area where you've got all the details for everything that's been used. So I test two of the papers and I'm curling around the paintbrush. It's a technique that I've used a lot last year, and for some reason over the last 12 months I haven't used it very much. And I thought it was time to revisit that style of scrapbooking because it's something that I've loved in the past to do and haven't done a lot lately, and felt, I wanted to have a bit of a throwback, if I can say it that way. So once that paper was curled, I layered them on top of each other. I'm using some double-sided sticky tape. I tore a little bit off the paper, so I've gluing it, as you can see, just to fix it very quickly so we don't end up with something not the way I like it. I'm then placing the tape on there, but as you can see, I don't remove the backing straight away because I'm looking at making it work around the page. So it's not glued. It looks like it's glued right now, but it isn't yet. I'm placing it there because I want it to add a little bit of stamping behind. So I'm using the stamp, and I'm stamping it in the same color that I use for the color water drops of colors, and that will all melt and make it all work together quite nicely. I'm not too bothered about the stamp getting on top of each other in the middle area because that's going to be covered by the paper and also by my photograph. And then I'm clearing up my stamp very well, and I'm stamping just a very small layer section, just a particular flower. Clean the stamp around it, and I just want to stamp that little flower there. It's a great technique if you want to use just one layer part of your stamp. I then went on to watercolor all of my flowers. I don't know if it's something that you were aware of, but you can use your Pink Fresh Studio ink pad to watercolor any images. So it's quite a nice technique, and all you need to do is rub your ink pad onto a piece of plastic, or like here an acrylic block, and add some water to it, and you can just have a nice little watercolor effect onto any of your images. And then I just wanted to add a little bit of color and a little bit of detail to the flowers, give them a little bit more life, a little bit more volume, and help them pop out, and giving that impression that they pop out from the page up there, from the pattern paper, and that they are falling down my layout. So once that's done and I'm happy with all the placement, I'm sticking down my pattern paper because I'm just happy with how it looks, and this is the effect that I wanted to create on this layout. So once that's done, I decided to create a little bit of a textured background behind my photo, and I used that hexagon die, and same again, it will be listed in the description. And once that's got out, so what I'm doing is, if you see the first page of any of your collection pack, if you buy a collection pack and you don't buy the pattern paper individually, it has the first page, which has the image of all the pattern paper you've got in your collection, and the back is perfect white. And I used those pages for the white side of the paper. That first page is exactly the same paper quality as any of your pattern paper, so it's a great tip if you don't have any white cardstock, or if the white cardstock you have isn't a perfect white, or whatever reason. It's a great technique to use, and a great way to use up that first sheet of your collection pack. So I've cut off the hexagon die, and then I'm cutting off the wording dies, and I'm creating it onto the same white cardstock, and I'm using it as well onto some vellum to back it, because those dies have a backing that goes with it. And I love the effect of having the hard word backed onto some vellum. I think it gives it a little whimsical effect that I love. So once that's all nicely cut, I am cutting the "You Are Wonderful" images, words, and once that's all cut, I'm carefully applying the glue to the word. So it's something that I'm struggling with, and perhaps I'm not very refined. I can't seem to use tweezers or anything like that, and I end up with my fingers covered in glue usually. So it's something that I'm putting a lot of time into doing correctly, so that I don't end up ruining what I've done. And I'm quite happy with how it turned out with these words. I've managed to not have glue everywhere and to still make it look nice, cleaned and centered. So if you have any tip on how to do that, maybe there's an easier way to do it, please don't hesitate to put it in a comment for me, because I'd love to get a few more tips on how to do that. So once that's applied, so I'm pushing it, I'm really adhering it by using the packaging. I don't want to put my hand onto there, because I've learned with experience I'm covering my hands with glue otherwise, and it makes a mess. So I'm doing it with the packaging. I'm removing the edge of that hexagon dies. I've cut a second one, and now I'm looking at where I'm going to glue them so that I can put my photographs on top of them. And I want my photograph to be centered. I want them to be slightly on top of each other. So this is just about where I decided I wanted to have those little hexagon, and they are just glued very lightly onto the curls of the paper behind, so it still respects the volume of the curls. I am then backing up my photo with double-sided sticky foam pads, and I'm raising them a lot, and we're talking about 3-4 layers of dots, so that it is raised without squishing the curls underneath. And it might not fit into the albums, but generally I don't place my layout into albums. They tend to get placed together in a special area where I put all my layers together, but I've got a couple of albums in my craft room, but I very rarely go and fill them up. I always struggle to spend money on buying a new album. I always rather spend that money onto materials and crafting things. So yeah, I rarely use albums, so that's why I'm not overly I'm never worried about creating voluminous layouts, because my favorite one then will go into a shadow box frame and decorate my room. Otherwise they just stay in with all the other layout that I have. It's in a pile on the side, and this is where I keep my layout. But otherwise there I'm just applying my second photo slightly on top. I'm making sure the foam pads go between the holes of the die behind, so that it doesn't flatten it and it doesn't squish it down, and it keeps the volume, and it's more against the photo than against the layout. And I'm putting a little bit more to have that corner raised up. I then decided to pull out any of the embellishment that had those green blue colors, and I went with the frames. I wanted to add a little bit more detail to the layout, a little bit more texture and shape. So I'm placing frames in 3, so I'm placing them around my photograph, but still also respecting the cascading flowers behind, so it kind of supports that shape of cascading flowers. I am now placing my title. I wasn't too sure I wanted it to stand out. I didn't want to put sticky foam pads behind it, however, because I didn't want them to be visible through the vellum. So I knew that I would have to glue it onto the photograph, but it was just a matter of balance and finding where on the photograph I would glue them and how it would work. And once I'm happy with the placement, that it doesn't cover the important part of my photos, but that it also all work together with the background, with everything, it's all gelled together in my eye, I'm just happy to just glue it down. So I'm only putting glue where the white of the words are. I'm making sure I don't put glue behind the actual vellum so that it's not visible when it's glued on. So it's very tiny little thin line of glue. And then once that's placed, quite happy with that, I'm moving on to the next thing. I wanted to add a little word that would fit with the layout and with the title, and I am mounting it onto double-sided sticky foam pad to still bring that volume. I didn't want to put it just flat onto the layout, I want it just to have some volume, so I'm putting some double-sided sticky foam pads behind it so that it goes just over. I'm placing it carefully so it doesn't fall onto the circles and make it uneven, so I had to move it a little bit because I had misplaced it just a touch, and then just apply it behind, well, below my photograph. So there we are. And now we are on to the finishing section of that layout. I'm getting the layer jewels to apply all around the page and making it cascade down alongside all the flowers, and it just I just like the fact that it showed back that, how can I say it represented all the splash of water, because those photos are Sophia splashing in the swimming pool that was, well, the little paddling pool we've got in the backyard. And I just like the fact that it kind of brought that back out of the page. You saw those little splashes of water going down, and those jewels are so sparkly and beautiful. They really repeat that water effect, and I felt that it worked beautifully with this layout. And it was just enough bling, enough embellishment to make this layout come to life really nicely. So I'm going around with my layer tool. I apply a little bit of dot of glue and then add the jewel to it. I'm trying to find where I feel needs an extra layer jewel, and I decided to put just a little bit above the layout to make it all gel together and come together on my page. And there we are. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you were inspired by this layout and give you more ideas on how to use your Happy Heart collection as well as some of your dies. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for all your comments. Thank you very much. Bye.